Thanks for the opportunity at the time. So we discuss about workplace ethics and the values. So next 10 or 15 minutes, we know the basic introduction about the values, including the definition of values, the ethical dilemmas, how it is important to integrate ethics and values in the decision making. Next, how to encourage ethical behavior among the employees, and then the take-home messages. So this is going to be the structure of the talk for next 10-15 minutes. And all of us, we know as an individual or in the organization or for that matter country, importance of having the long-term vision and the long-term goals. So in the process, all of us, we know that to sacrifice the importance of letting go the short-term goals. So that applies to even in the human interactions and human relations. So these ethics and values, they are the neglected pillars of this human relations and interactions and human relation, so that they can last longer, and which in turn is the pillar of the success. So as I said, for the very longevity of the organization, the ethical consideration is integral part of decision making. So what are the ethical criteria? The three striking ones are utilitarianism, protection of whistleblowers, and encouraging the creativity. So what is utilitarianism? It is a principle of the philosophy of considering the interest or the benefit of the larger number or larger group. And whistleblowers, we are already much aware of it in the media. So really important. One is to encourage the whistleblowers and not only protecting the privacy or the confidence part. In general, the whole protection of whistleblowers, that has to be encouraged. And we need not emphasize the importance of creativity. And even though a lot of things have been said about ethics and values, all of us know there is no standard process or standardization, global standardization in ethics. And it varies geography to geography. For example, like the classical example quoted is, if you talk about the bribe, it's almost a norm in China and India, whereas it's almost unheard of in US. But at the same time, when it comes to kickback, the probably kickback is a very product of US, so it is there in both. So even though the ethical and the value part ambiguous even in the West, they are relatively more or less better defined in that. Here in our Asian setup, the confusion lies even at the level of defining or understanding what is ethics and values. Whereas the practice, more or less, it is ambiguous both in West as well as East. So the second question is, why few people behave unethically? So like any other physical characteristic or a behavioral characteristic of a human, everything can be attributed to genetic locus. And few personality traits are naturally susceptible to behave unethically. So in a light way, all of us can escape that. Basically nothing is wrong with me to behave unethically. It is because of my genetic makeup, and in turn we can blame our parents for our unethical behavior. And itself is unethical, in fact. So all of us act or behave in an unethical way to some extent in specific scenario. And how is that possible, and how do you explain that? So probably, one sees the impact of unethical act as well. If the impact is less, the dilution of ethics is less harmful. And I have given a small example. Whenever occasionally as an employee, if we ask for a leave, casually once in a 6 months or once in a year, our line manager or HR manager, at least few of them, have a tendency to ask why. For me, for my own values or whatever ethics, we don't like it. We feel it, it's not right to ask why I'm taking occasional once in 6 months. He should not ask the reason. And no employee would like to tell the reason that I'm going to date with my second girlfriend tomorrow. That's impractical. So the employee covers it up. He says the lie. He will tell that one of my parents is. So it's a small lie. Both of them, they behaved in an unethical way, but probably the impact was less. And they have diluted their own standards of ethics, but impact was less. But if the decision making, critical, crucial, vital decision makings, if the ethics get compromised, and the impact is also large. So like everything in life, it's shades of grey. So ethics is not an exception. So common scenario, the dilemmas I'm discussing, is giving bribe equally unethical as taking? See, even in my case, I have rationalized myself. I have not taken a single pie from anybody, and I'm not going to take it also. But at the same time, as an individual, as well as a business owner, I have paid bribe. But at the same time, I would say I have not taken anything. But is that right? Or maybe there are other few people who say, I'm not going to take a single bribe. I'm not giving to anybody also. So that is his ethical standards. So that, shades of grey we have to accept. And coming to my own industry, in fact, we had a sort of informal chat in the morning about this. Doctors, the government and the society itself we have made, patient has become a consumer and the doctors have become providers. And the doctors now are under the Consumer Protection Act. And the clinical establishment, hospital establishment, they are treated as commercial organizations. You are paying the commercial taxes. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, if the doctor, say, writes a lab test, it was genuine lab test, patient was suffering typhoid and fever, he wants to confirm by a laboratory test, he recommends it, and in turn, as a co-ownership of the business, he gets something back out of it. So is it unethical or ethical? Arguable. And few doctors themselves, they defend that. Yes, I do take that. But if the patient is poor, I can easily guess that. I will discount that amount. So he rationalizes. Only if the patient is affordable, if he is a CEO, if he is from a relatively healthier IT sector, yes, I would take some kind of benefit as a part of it. But if the same patient, poor patient, I never charge that, I discount. So he says it is my differential price, and he says that's my ethics. I have rationalized myself. That's one part.
What would you say in a situation where you see it's like this, they offer you as a whatever you call that name,
right,
kickback, whatever, but there is a benefit that comes.
Yes, exactly.
They take you to the pharmaceutical companies to offer you all international tours, right, and they say next 5 years you are going to write my product.
Exactly.
Okay, now in such a context,
yeah,
how would you define this?
No, this is again, thing is that you need the help of the industry also. As I said, ethical standards, one is it is at the individual level. That is very bad if they are sponsoring you for some leisurely trip along with your family.
Yeah, that is what they are doing.
No, that's what I am doing. Again, it's a really grey zone about that. Not every company or every doctor does that. This is bad. If they are sponsoring you for a hefty 1 crore, some tour in very exotic places with your company, family, that's bad. But at the same time, it has impacted the academic part of it also. Because we need industries when we organize CMEs and all. And the CME expenses also, it is to the tunes of 20 lakhs and all. As a doctors, we can't afford that. Patients can't afford that. Here we need the support of the industry. So if it is for the personal gains of the doctors, that has to be discouraged, no doubt about that. That has a bearing in turn on that. But at the same time, it is for the, for the industry, organizing the CME, or if you have organized a workshop, or in turn if it helps for the medical academics or the research, that is welcome sign. But if it is for the personal exotic sum, that is to be discouraged. So as I said, it should not be a simple blanket therapy. It has to be customized, and there is a thin line and which has to be appreciated by the regulators. Again, this is one more my classical example for my industry. Can doctors market themselves? This is one more thing. Everybody says doctors should not market, doctors should not advertise, doctors should not promote. Hippocratic oath was written decades ago, centuries ago. He said doctor should not talk about himself, he should not promote himself. When people do everything, daily activities, even if they buy a new dress, they post it on WhatsApp, they post it on Facebook. And we doctors, we living in the same era. If I do achieve something great, I have written great books, I have done some great treatment, don't I have the right to post it on Facebook or WhatsApp? So is it relevant? And unless people know what they are good at, what they are doing it, how can you take it to people and how the society gets benefited? So that we have to revisit. So similarly, all these ethics, values, even though they are relatively stable, with the centuries and with this, they do change. So similarly, like everything again, ethics, values also need to be revisited and revised. So that is it. Similar, I'm just extending my area industry specific examples. too many trainings. You know, you might have seen, visited particularly government sector or private medical. There are 10 or 11 trainee doctors just trying to, they are enthusiastic. Their terminal values, I'm going to be a competent doctor and serve the society. Let me learn many things. So all those 8 or 10 doctors, they will pounce on the single patient. Patient is at his discomfort. He is suffering from his own illness. But all these young doctors, they are enthusiastic. So they trouble a single patient. So that is again unethical. You should stop it the moment you realize the patient is at discomfort. You have to own your skills on other set of patients. Again questionable here. And utilitarian thought should not hurt individual interests also. We keep on telling about the larger interest. In fact, this was the example he was giving. There are some, untested or science has yet not proved or validated the utility of some treatment modes. But the doctor with his experience, he would say, I will try it out on this. Even though this doesn't have a scientific value, scientific backup, I will try it out on few of the patients so that I can implement it on other people. Something like his stem cell, that's what people do. Stem cell, sometimes a patient need not pay. Some organization will help you out. He would say, I will try it out. If there is a benefit, I will try to replicate it on other patients. But how ethical is that? It doesn't have science. He would say it is utilitarian. Other patients will get benefited. But we are not sure what's going to happen to this individual patient. So,
again, time should not be cost. It should be.
That's it. It should not hurt the individual interest also. Here again, ethics it is. He can always defend. I would say that it is in the larger interest, utilitarian. No, but what about the individual interest? So you have to strike a balance. Again, coming to utilitarian is just considering
the
larger good. So here he says, single patient, yes, I might have caused some kind of inconvenience, but I have learnt a lot. I'm going to apply it on hundreds of patients. They are going to get benefited. So let this one patient suffer. That's bad. Learning training, for example, say surgeons would like to do only selective surgeries on the heart or the gallbladder. He doesn't want to do appendicectomy because it is not lucrative. Is it fine? There is a doctor. That again ethically would say, yes, I have clearly declared I am not going to handle any patients of appendicectomy. I don't find it interesting or it's not lucrative for me. He has all the right to choose that. So again, it's a question mark area. And the very organized clinical research itself is unethical. Who comes for the clinical research? Who gets registered for clinical research? One is relatively less informed. Yes, you give him a lot of big data, thousands of sheets, but finally he is from a poor socio-economic background, who still gets attracted by 2,000 or 3,000 rupees which pharmaceutical companies provide. So in the core itself is clinical research ethical. So these are, very industry-specific dilemmas. And few common universal examples, workplace romance, very common. It's a very biological behavior. If you say it's because of, between two human beings, that's what I'm telling. So we have, here again rationalized. We have grown our things. We are never telling between male and a female. We are telling two human beings.
Yes.
But in spite of it, is that fine? It may affect the productivity of the efficiency of the people around. And in fact, few of the organizations say if you enter a relationship, they will be transferred. It's a biological. How can you enforce something, not against the biology? That itself is questionable, ethical, grey area. That's what I wanted to tell. And conflicts of interest, motivated blindness. Probably the moment we step out of our house, we have conflict of interest, and we have to tackle that. And we need to be. Sometimes we develop this, selective blindness. We neglect the bad part of it. Still incentives drive us, and we neglect the ethical part of it. So what are the triggers in the susceptibles? We said we blamed for the genes. Then what really triggers? So one is the incentives. Either his own terminal value, let me have a financial freedom. So that keeps him driving. So he keeps on compromising with the smaller things. So that is one thing. So maybe even the scandals also motivated behaviors. The second thing is, surprisingly, in general we say transparency and accountability increase ethical behavior. In fact, even my own ethical system, value system, transparency really tops the chart. And I have experienced that also. But again, recent research has proved the other way. Transparency and accountability lead to unethical behavior. The reason is that once you declare you are transparent, accountability, probably they think that itself absolves your all wrongdoings. So they keep on doing that. They would say I am unethical, whatever I am doing, but I am transparent. But again, you can't believe all the research also. Even the research has to be taken with a pinch of salt. So even the research itself can be unethical. So again, the grey area. So is it the question is now, as we discussed few of the example, so is it the very terminal value makes one compromise his instrumental value? We saw the doctors, they wanted to be good doctors, but in the process, they hurt the interest of the individual. So I feel both end and means are important, and even though the science has questioned transparency and accountability of questionable use, undoubtedly they found the vital values. And special scenarios, just 2 more minutes I'll wind it up. So ethical gossip, so even people are come up with a framework, you can gossip is not bad, but again you should have your own laws. At the end of the day, you should be, the person who you gossiped about should be given a chance to talk about that, clear the air. So we have all heard that finally it is the behavior which has the bearing on the performance. But is it biological to change the behavior of a person? We encourage cloning, but finally we said cloning itself is unethical because it is against the rules of the biology. So similarly, is it ethical to change the behavior of a person? And you need to be ethical in downsizing also. Whatever, if you are giving a pink slip also, give it in the right way. Don't mail in, don't spread the rumors. Take him for a cup of coffee. So measures to encourage. Probably this is the most important slide. One is code of ethics. Ideally the written should be circulated among all the employees. Seminars, workshop, all education programs should be held. Protection of whistleblower we have already talked about. And the best way is managers, line managers, everybody lead by example. So that is probably the best way. And always, again, a paradigm shift here. Always we were told, whenever we make decisions, it has to be independent of emotions. Don't mix up the emotions. But again, we have changed. Unless you empathize and sympathize with the people or the impact of the decisions, you cannot take right decision. So please add a touch of emotions to your decisions. And we said 3 important decision criteria. Can any of you tell those criteria? I said utilitarianism, whistleblower, we have spoken. The third one is I said creativity. So here the third one is my own creativity. I was inspired by this IPL stuff. So fair play reward to organization, say tax exemption or who have practiced, who have high standards of ethics and values. But again the question is my own suggestion, my own creative idea. Financial solution to a biological problem that itself looks unethical and sin. Again questionable. So what the value they add finally? Ethics and values help one those difficult situations and ensure longevity of organization. They help us to avoid, address the conflicts and stay further intact. Value, this madam has discussed in the last class. So values personally or socially preferable, specific mode of conduct or end state existence. So everyone has his own value system. So one may rate the transparency as the top one, the other may put it somewhere in between, and it may be situational also, but still one should have values. And as we said, it is relatively absolute, closely related to attitudes, perceptions. They have a bearing on each other. So attitudes and perception will have a bearing on the value, and the value in turn have a bearing on these two. The other side of the values is, if you are bogged down by too much of your values or your principles, whatever you call it, it can cloud objectivity and rationality. So that one thing you have to keep it in mind. And any kind of misalignment. So even your own value system, you may have misalignment with the companies. So again there is a misfit, and you know that whenever there is a misfit or misalignment, either in terms of strategy or in terms of value, that can cause some kind of disasters. But again, the efficient handling of this ethics and values help us to avoid this man-made disasters. Generational values, we have seen this, all of us veterans, the boomers, the Xers and the nexters. And just last main point of Hofstede's contribution of all this, he has 6 points about the national culture, very important ones. Power distance, masculinity and femininity, or all importantly, uncertainty avoidance, individualism and collectivism, long-term and short-term orientation. The last 3 or 4 are very relevant in Indian scenario. At least the uncertainty avoidance and individual and collectivism directly related to your entrepreneurial instincts and your ability to work in teams. And this is one thing as a theoretical part one needs to be aware of it, what is known as GLOBE study, global leadership and organization behavior effectiveness. So it has added two dimensions, additional two dimensions compared to hostage. So that is human and performance orientation. So finally, long-term peace and stability, prosperity of individual, organization and society, and in general human race, truly depend on values and ethics. Should be integral part of every human transaction, decision, and should be part of every personality trait. And we have seen policies to promote. We should have a regular activities in terms of seminars and course, and we have to make that perpetual act to permanently encourage values and ethics. Thank you.
Wonderful.